Greetings and welcome to the Voices Less Said podcast show with Dr. PMAC. Today I'm speaking with the Global Impact Engineers of the World Farm Foundation. They happen to be the co-founders of the World Farm Foundation. They founded the Exchange magazine along with other different entrepreneurial initiatives. Bonnie and Roger Neugebauer are creators of Childcare Information magazine and co-founders of the World Farm Foundation. Bonnie has a master's degree and an honorary doctor's degree in education from Wheelock College. Roger has a master's degree in early childhood leadership from Lesley College. And as I mentioned, currently they serve as the Global Impact Engineers supporting the World Farm Foundation and Exchange magazine, as well as helping build up the emerging early childhood wisdom initiatives. Join me as I have a conversation with them on Voices Less Said with Dr. P. Mac today. Bonnie and Roger, thank you so much for making time. I've already introduced you to my listeners, and I'm so excited just to have the opportunity to speak with you. One of the things I was reflecting on this morning is the journey, the times that I got to know you. And I think it was back in 2009 when I actually got introduced to the World Forum Foundation. And I traveled from Zimbabwe to Belfast for the conference there. And since then, I've been, in ardent support of the all things World Forum, and found myself in leadership, serving on the board, and just working to ensure that young children around the world have got the best of all possibilities. And so, with that, perhaps can you take us to the very beginning? What did you see as a gap in the early childhood community? First, that led you to establishing the Exchange magazine, and then later on to creating this amazing experience, which is known as the World Forum Foundation.
Well, it actually all started when we got married. We got married in Fargo, North Dakota, in the middle of a snowstorm, and our vows we included that we were going to work together. Okay. We had no idea why we included that, and our parents were kind of befuddled why we included that, but we did.
Yes, yeah. Mom was pretty worried.
So we moved to the East Coast and worked for a couple of years, and then we both quit our jobs, we vacated our apartment, and we went and drove around Europe for a year, on $5 a day. And during that time, we were constantly talking about what are we going to do when we get back? What are we going to do to work together? And we decided, because of our interest, we were going to open a childcare center.
Okay.
So we came back to the United States, pregnant, broke, unemployed, no housing, no insurance. And somehow I ended up going to graduate school at Lesley College in daycare administration, and Bonnie opened a childcare program in our home, a family childcare home called Beginnings.
Yeah.
And shortly in my career as a grad student, I discovered there was no information out there about how to administer a childcare center. There was ideas about curriculum, but nothing about the administration of a childcare center. So I ended up working with my mentor, Gwen Morgan, and reading articles in Harvard Business Review and such things about management. And then I started interviewing directors around the country at what I called a panel of 100 of early childhood leaders who would send a question out and they'd send back answer. How do you raise funds? How do you motivate staff? How do you work with parents? And I'd send it back to them in the form of a newsletter. Yeah. And one day in our kitchen, our friend Stan Nissen said, well, why don't you sell subscriptions? And I thought, no. But he'd planted a seed, right?
All right, that was the beginning.
And so we started selling subscriptions. And because there was no information about leadership out there, because leaders of early childhood programs felt very isolated, our subscriptions took off very quickly. So there certainly was a gap, and we just happened to be the ones that filled it.
Wow.
And lots of times when we meet someone who was one of the first subscribers, they talk about that need to feel connected and how important it was to have a way of connecting with and seeing what other leaders in the emerging fields were doing, because we weren't a field then. We were, you weren't, moms were supposed to take care of their own children. And so why we decided to devote ourselves to something that was not supposed to be done by good parents, I don't know, but we did.
So, so one thing that I'll put out there, and it's kind of interesting, my audience is gonna be like, yeah, but my wife and I always talk about working together or doing things together, and sometimes she comes and shares an office with me, and an hour later she's like, you know what, I can't do it, I'm out. So working together as co-founders and life partners is quite a unique dynamic. What's the one thing that you've learned about each other through building these organizations, whether it's sort of the Exchange magazine or even the World Forum, that you might not have discovered otherwise, right? And as you think about that question, who is more likely to say yes to a wild new idea between the two of
you? Do you want to go?
No, you go.
Well, I think we are unique, and we're a unique combination. And people often say to us, well, I could never work with my husband, wife, partner. And we also worked with my brother, Bruce Schoen, who was very important in creating the World Forum and in marketing the magazine. So there is something about our personalities and our diversity of skills that makes it work.
And we also very much respect each other's specialties. We sort of, Bonnie is more the content person and I'm more the admin person in very generalized terms. And if I step into her turf, she lets me know, and vice versa. And I think that by separating our responsibilities has helped quite a bit, because we both have plenty to do.
One of our favorite things is brainstorming. And I brainstorm best when I'm driving a car. I don't know. Maybe that's true of everyone. I don't know. But, so I'm driving and Roger's taking notes. And that's where a lot of our ideas come from. But that we both really enjoy creating things and thinking out of the box. And we have a lot of fun doing that.
But it's not like one of us is the idea person, the other one is the yes, no person. In general, I tend to be kind of crazier, and I take things way beyond. And then Bonnie doesn't say we can't do that. She says, well, how about if we do this instead, or do this? And we generally arrive at a point that's pretty radical, but one that we're both comfortable with, or at least comfortable taking a risk with. But it's very much a together process of creating ideas.
That's really beautiful. Just listening to this, I'm hearing a lot of things, and one of the things that I'm hearing is the power of connections, perhaps the power of having the right friends around you, right? And I'm thinking of myself too. I'm thinking about, okay, who's my friend, who's around me, and how are they supporting me? How is the journey of friendship perhaps influenced the things that you've done, both in Exchange and the World Forum?
It's the only way we've survived.
Right.
And it's not that people were friends, although that was sometimes true, that they were friends first and then became advisors and then helped shape things and participated. It was, I think our life is a lot about becoming friends, authentic friends with people, and then trusting them. So valuing their perspectives asking them questions, probably boring them sometimes with what we needed their thoughts on, but trusting people then to not only offer ideas, but to have roles to play. I mean, the World Forum is built on volunteers. And there's never been a huge staff or a huge bank account. It's built on the contributions of so many people who became our friends, and hopefully they feel that way about us, but most importantly that they feel that way about each other, because all of the work that we have done, the magazine and the World Forum, and now the Early Childhood Wisdom Initiative, is all about connecting people to each other for their own benefit and not for a particular outcome, but to enjoy each other and to help each other continue to learn about different perspectives, different ways of life, and different opinions. Yeah.
Thank you. That's so helpful. I come from a generation where friendship sometimes looks like, what can I get out of this? What can I get out of this friendship? How can I get ahead? Using in air quotes, this person, how can I move forward? And so your reflection there, Bonnie, is so deep, and I'm grateful for it, because it helps to center not only just myself, but perhaps listeners from my generation, or even the Gen Zs that are starting to listen a lot to this podcast, that it is just not about what can you get out of friendship. It's really being authentic, having time for people, listening to people, and doing life together. And I've been a silent observer of you and Roger in that regard, looking at the connections, the relationships you've built over the years, and how you hold friendships so near and dear to you. I'll come to the Early Childhood Wisdom Initiative, because I want to talk about that. But before I do that, how many countries have you traveled to around the world?
Well, counting that time we took a year off to travel around Europe, we've been to 69 countries. So we want to go to one more so we can have a round number.
So you have the round number. Wow, I see. And so through your work with the World Forum, yes, you've traveled to all of these incredible places. 69, my word, that's a lot. What would you say was or has been your most memorable or unexpected moment? Whether it was visiting a program, an early childhood program in a country, or something that made you laugh or cry, or perhaps rethink assumptions.
Well, I think we both think about that, the childcare program that was so financially poorly resourced, and the environment was dark. There weren't windows. The children were lined up in the corridor. Is that what you would think of too?
I was thinking, that's like in a township in Cape Town,
and
outside of Cape Town.
And then we're walking through, and the director is talking to us.
And it's a dirt floor, by the way, just very, very humble.
And we turn the corner, and there is a teacher who is like a light.
Wow.
And she is talking to the children, and then they're singing, and there's such joy, and that this is a beautiful place for these children, even though it's not visually maybe such a beautiful place, or maybe the equipment isn't so beautiful. But when the staff are there and they feel respected and as individuals and as teachers, and they shine, and that makes it a beautiful place for the children. More important, all children should have the whole package, but teacher is the most important part.
And when you contrast this with visiting a well-equipped, fancy, spacious childcare center in the United States, where you go in and the kids are bored and listless and not having, it makes you realize that it's not money that makes the difference. It's the spark of the caregiver that really is the key.
Wow.
But we need to qualify that children deserve the
They
money.
They deserve. They all deserve the great spaces.
Yeah.
Sure. Wow, and thank you so much for that reflection. And I mean, it's always interesting to look at to look at the beauty of Cape Town in South Africa, and then also minutes out, or even as you drive out from the airport, on the right hand side there's Khayelitsha, which is just this gigantic high density area, and in there you've got services for young children being provided. You again see the differences. Like you walk in and you don't have bright colored walls, etc., but you see that the children are engaging happily and excited. And I think of also Kenya, in Nairobi, the Kibera slums as well, where I visited some programs there. And regardless of the furniture or the design or the lack thereof, kids are happy because they are in a space where the educators or the caregivers are coming with that energy that seeks to recognize their children in their individuality and provide support. So thank you for sharing that example. So moving on, say from Africa to another part of the world, were there any surprising differences or perhaps even similarities that you saw how different cultures approached early childhood education?
Well, I noticed in some Asian communities, there's childcare providers are under a tremendous amount of pressure from parents that their kids succeed, that their kids learn English, and for the most part, the early childhood educators we respect really are trying to resist that, to let parents know that this is not an age to pressure children. This is an age to let children play and follow their curiosity. So, unfortunately, that's become the case in many parts of the world, where the pressure of parents to have the academics taught as opposed to a respect for play. So, unfortunately, that's become more universal.
And usually when we've gone to a community, we have someone who has arranged the visit and wants us to see the best.
Okay.
And so it's not often that someone will trust you, I guess, to see a range of services provided.
Right.
So most of the time we're seeing what people are really proud of.
Yeah, that's thank you for sharing that. Again, I think just the issue of context as well, and looking at how in so many, at least places that I've visited too, in the global south, early childhood, is being seen as well. We're sending our kids there so that they learn how to read, then how to write, how to do this, this, and this, and this, and just forgetting, like what you have said, Roger, that no, it's just about allowing children to be children, allowing children to be to be able to play and enjoy the company that they have around them, and then through that play or that process, be able to learn through play as opposed to sort of be forced on these structured and learn how to read and learn how to write. And so, thank you for those reflections. One of the things that, again, is always inspirational about the two of you is that, you don't stop ideating. You're always on with, okay, there's this idea, or there's this idea. How do we run this, and how do we do this? And recently, you've been, in fact, over the past year and a half, I suppose, going into 2 years, you've been leading or co-leading the Early Childhood Wisdom Initiative. Now, how did that come about? right? Where I thought that, well, Roger and Bonnie have stepped back from the World Forum Foundation, day-to-day leadership. They're now just taking time now to travel around the world. But no, they're not traveling around the world. They're busy working. And the Early Childhood Wisdom Initiative is one other initiative organization that you've set up. Tell us some more about it. What was the genesis of this?
Well, I think it started in many conversations where people our age are sharing that they don't want to be done,
Yeah,
that they want to belong,
yeah.
and it's lonely out there
Mm,
just traveling and playing golf and doing whatever. Um, and we've invested our whole lives in something we really care about. So just because you reach a certain age or a certain time in your professional career doesn't mean your mission and your heart and your mind stops. So we wanted to figure out a place for people to continue to always belong in the World Forum community. So that's one of the places this started. And then my friend Carol Hillman, who is turning 99 next year,
wow.
and I would have this conversation. Well, what should we be doing? What can we do that matters?
Mm,
And we kept talking about building some kind of a community.
yeah.
And Roger has always been part of the conversations as well.
Mhm.
But then one day we said, let's stop talking about it. Let's just do it.
Yeah.
So each of us named 5 people that we thought would be interesting and interested
Mhm.
in helping us think. And we started conversations that are ongoing.
Yeah.
And what we have been focusing on is storytelling.
Mm,
And so we need to find out what stories we have that will be useful and valuable to people who are younger than us,
uh-huh.
and how we tell them in a way that's useful
Mm,
to a broad range of people.
mm.
And the other day I was with a woman who said, I want to know how you define an elder and what makes a person young,
Yeah.
and what do you call me, because I don't think I'm either one. And we realized that all of us, no matter what generation we are,
Mm,
we need stories. We need each other's stories. So
yeah.
now we have to think about the middlers and how to integrate them into this
Mm,
storytelling.
mm.
So yes, so it's another idea. We're testing it out, trying it out, and planning activities for the World Forum in Malaysia
Yeah.
that will be with the elders that we can round up to tell
I,
some stories.
that's fantastic. And so you said you started with 5 elders. There's that pool of elders grown, and is there a willingness to share these stories? Because I asked because sometimes I've been in situations in communities where elders still just keep the information to themselves. I'm not too sure if they can trust the stories with the next generation. What has been your experience with that? Have you had elders that are willing to come out there and say, "Hey, we want to share the stories. Hey, this is what we want to do in support of early childhood elders wisdom initiative."
Yeah, we sort of did a field test of this at the World Forum in Panama in 2020 something,
Mhm.
about 4 years ago. And we just had a session. We said, come and join us if you want to talk about, maintaining a presence in the World Forum as you retire in the early childhood field. And there was a flood of people. We had to, get more and more chairs. And we asked one person, tell us why you're here. And they started talking about how they didn't want to be put in the drawer. They didn't want to be put out to pasture. They still have much to offer. And it was like an hour conversation that we only started with one question. So we knew then that there was a real need for this. And so the people participating in equity have grown tremendously. You know, we have on our official list, we have about 80 people who are partners, but you know, the interest is growing.
Wow, that's so good and so encouraging to hear. And part of the lens that I take, not just in these conversations, but in life in general, is what is called maybe perhaps using a Sankofa lens. And Sankofa is an Akan term from Ghana, from the Akan people, which speaks about this sort of mythic bird that has got its eyes or its feet planted forward and the beak and the mouth holding food looking backwards. Essentially, when you say how do we bring stories to the next generation, Sankofa from Ghana, from the Akan community, reminds us that history has so much to teach us. And so I'm so grateful that we even had this opportunity today to sort of go back and reflect on the early beginnings of the World Foundation, because I'm sure there are a lot of lessons there that listeners would be able to pick. So I'm wishing you so much success with the Wisdom Initiative, and look forward to sitting at the feet of the elders to learn and to just enjoy just the experience and be around people that have had a wide breadth of experience. And with that, and I know our time is coming up fast, I wanted to find out from you. There are various people that have characterized the current situation we're living in as a polycrisis, right? And the polycrisis having been defined as things going wrong, a multiple of things going wrong at the same time. And so increased polarity. How do you, and I've watched you, facilitate conversations through the World Forum Foundation's Global Cafe. How do you foster genuine dialogue and exchange between early childhood professionals, perhaps even from different political, economic, and cultural contexts? What is your secret sauce that you might want to share with us, for the next generation? How do I, for my generation, living in this environment now, how do we build this genuine dialogue within the early years sector?
Well, I think one thing, we didn't just, with the World Forum one, we thought it was important to bring people from different demographic settings together to get to know each other and get rid of some of the stereotypes. We didn't just decide to bring people together and have kind of a happening. What we decided was the deal was to focus on problems that are common, so that people from different places and perspectives and global geographic location could share their solutions, and in that sharing they converse with each other. So it's focusing on a topic but with a wide range of people. That seems to be a formula that has worked well.
Well, and I think it goes also back to trusting people.
Yeah.
And we hope we've created a space where people can disagree. People can have different life experiences and different expectations and different beliefs. But we've always made it clear that the World Forum is about children.
Yeah.
So we ask people to put aside the political conflicts that might arise in conversations, to put them in a calm, safe space, share them in a way that the focus remains on the children.
Yeah.
And for the most part, it's worked. There have been some circumstances where people just weren't able to do that. And sometimes the pain of life and the way things are for you are too much for you to put that aside.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it's worked to put children first, and then to trust each other, because we believe that you can, with respect and kindness, talk about anything, any differences, but it has to start on a basis of trust.
The first World Forum we did in Hawaii, Honolulu, we knew we had a formula that was working because as we were loading the bus to leave the hotel, a group of people were heading off to go surfboarding. And they included somebody from Africa, somebody from South America, somebody from Europe, and somebody from the United States that didn't know each other, met at the World Forum, became friends for life.
Wow.
So we knew the formula was working.
Yeah. Wow. I love it. And so after decades of working together in early childhood, can you two have dinner without talking about pedagogy, about policy, about the early years, or about the next World Forum? What do you have fun like? What do you do for fun when not talking about or changing the world?
We talk about our family, we talk about our community, and all the issues that are playing out globally are playing out here in our little community as well. So there's always a lot to talk about.
But if you asked our kids, they would probably say, yeah, every dinner conversation ended up going back to work. I'm sure that's what they would say.
Well, they all worked with us for a while in different ways when they were kids growing up, and neighbors worked with us. So,
That's good. Well, thank you so much for the time. One last question is, and I'm sure you've met a lot of people, you've had so many dinners, but if you were to have a dinner with 3 people that are living or that have passed, could you let us know who would they be and why?
Oh boy! Wow. Well, Malaguzzi, right?
Huh? Oh, that would be a good one. Loris
Malaguzzi, yeah.
And I would say Barnabas Otala, one of our very first World Forum friends.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he was from Namibia. Yeah.
Right. Then got banished to Uganda. And another one would be an old friend of ours who died way too young, Jim Greenman.
Oh,
he was.
That's excellent.
He was. I mean, if you talk about creative thinkers, he was unbelievable. Plus, he had a great sense of humor and a great way of conveying messages. And a great love of children. He was a very special friend. So I'd love to have dinner with him again.
Yep.
Wow. Well, Roger and Bonnie, thank you so much for the work that you have done and that you continue to do to center the lives of young children, not just in North America, but truly around the world. We are so grateful. I'm grateful for my friendship, my family's friendship with you, the way you have looked after our kids, and so really, really excited just to know you and to have you in our lives. Thank you so much for what you've done through Exchange and the World Forum and the difference that has made to the world, and for my generation to even stand on your shoulders to be able to do this work that we do. We know that we are anchored by elders such as yourselves. And so thank you so much for spending time with us on the Voices Less Said podcast today.
Well, and thank you for inviting us, and thank you for all the great work you are doing and have been doing for a long time.
Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you so much. Friends, this is Roger and Bonnie, who are the co-founders of the World Forum Foundation, and they also founded the Exchange magazine, along with other different initiatives. I usually call them social entrepreneurs, but they're really entrepreneurs at heart, but passionate and really, really have done amazing work for young children around the world. Until next time, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for listening to the Voices Less Said podcast with Dr. P. Mac. I hope you enjoyed insights that came out of this conversation. Keep your notifications on. Our next episode will be dropping soon. Thank you and enjoy.